All right. So last we talked about the observer, independent thinking, right? How to start recognizing when your thoughts are actually yours versus, the group think and the, bad and negative self-talk that we pick up in our formative years. But that was just the foundation. This next topic is going to build directly on top of it. Because here's the thing, you can do all that inner work. You can start waking up to like who you actually are, recognizing, the thoughts that are able to just go right on past you. But when you open your mouth in a difficult conversation, things tend to just go all sideways. We've all been there, right? Getting into a conversation, and then next thing you know, all of a sudden you're screaming, they're screaming, and you don't even know what just happened. Because most of us were never taught how to actually communicate, like at all. I wasn't, and it cost me a lot. So that's what this week and this topic is going to be about. Not tips, not scripts, the actual frameworks that I use, that I've been using for 15 years now to help navigate conflict, understand myself, and stop blowing up relationships that I actually care about. So let's get into it. Now, if you're just joining us, here's where we are in the program. We're learning who we are. Weeks of Beyond the Matrix is all about waking up your mind, right? Week 1 was about the observer, how to think independently. Before that, we talked about groupthink and how to recognize, the influences around us. And now this topic is about communication, understanding your inner landscape and how to actually express it. The next one gets into self-ownership, and then we're going to do a holistic self-assessment. Now, getting real honest will require you to look across every area of your life. So for the next few topics, this is where we're going to be getting, deep into our bodies, finding our reset buttons, our, being able to. After that, we're going to get into our body, understanding our habits, cellular health. And then phase 3 is where it all comes together. Understanding freedom, financial independence, and community building. Each week connects. Nothing here is random. And that's why it all stacks on top of each other. So stay with it. Now, you got a guidebook this week that's going to be accompanying with this video. In there is going to be the 3 parts, breaking this down into much more detail. So after this video, go check that out. We got the summary video, we got the podcast, we got mind maps, we got all these great images that I've collected. And you're going to be able to go through this in more detail. So for this video, I really just want to introduce these topics because I found it's really easier to get deeper into theory if you can hear, how I have impacted someone else first, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, learn to speak your truth. NVC is the process that we're going to be diving into. Part 2 is the parts framework from Richard Schwartz and the internal family systems. Part 3 is active listening and how to actually hear someone else. So before we dive in, if you're already inside Beyond the Matrix, you know where the guidebook is. Pull it up. There's AI allies built specifically for this week that can walk you through the frameworks in real time, help you debrief the conversation that just went sideways, in your relationships, do some role play practice with you. That stuff's all in there, so use it. If you're finding this for the first time on like YouTube or, coming across this video elsewhere online, welcome. Everything I'm sharing right now is part of a 12-week program that's completely free to access. Guidebooks, cheat sheets, sign up, and go from watching this content to actually integrating it. All right, let's dive in. I want to say something real before we get into the frameworks. This stuff, NVC, parts work, active listening, it's not complicated to understand. You're going to get it. It's going to make sense. You're probably going to think, yeah, okay, that's good. I can use that. And then you're going to get into a real situation with real heat with someone you actually care about, and you're going to completely forget about all of it. You're going to react. You're going to say something you didn't mean. And afterwards, you're going to be like, I knew better than that. But that's not failure. That's how this works. The frameworks, they don't save you from the mess. They give you something to come back to. And in the middle of it, if you can catch yourself, or after the fact, when you're doing reflection about it. That's where, these AI allies come in too. By the way, you can describe what happened after a huge blow up, and it can help slow it down and be able to see where things went sideways. Mike Tyson said it right when he said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. This is where you build the plan. The reps come in real life. So when I was in my drug years, I could name maybe 4 or 5 emotions, right? Mad, sad, happy, right? That was genuinely pretty much it. That was my whole vocabulary. Oh, I'm so mad. Like, oh man, I'm feeling really sad, depressed. Or for me, I had really high highs. So, I was like, oh, this is the best time of my life. And I don't say these things as a joke. I mean it because I was like walking around completely numb to all the nuances of what I was actually experiencing. Because I spent years chemically managing everything that I felt. So any discomfort that came up, I had a quick solution that didn't involve actually feeling it. Life's intense. Go drink, go smoke, go party. So when I got sober, one of the first things that I had to happen was learning what was actually going on inside of me. It sounds super simple, but it was not simple. It was really disorienting. I was 33 years old when I got sober, when someone handed me a list of 50 different feeling words. 50. And I was sitting there going like, what? Like, how are all these different things? These all have names? 50 feelings? And I've been walking around my whole life with like 5. Anger was the only word that I had. Because I blamed everything outside of myself. Here's what it looked like. Something would happen. Somebody would do something. A conversation would go sideways. I'd feel some kind of certain way. And the only word my brain had for any of it was anger. That was my default. That was my catch-all. My brain would just jump to, trying to avoid taking blame, trying to give an excuse of why it was that wasn't my fault. And there was no taking pause, internally reflecting, no inquiring about, oh, tell me more. Let's explore and gather more information about this. I was angry. And so I was just resorting to yelling, shutting down, blaming, and then leaving, right? What I couldn't see at the time was that anger was almost never the actual thing. Anger was the surface level. Underneath it, I was something else. Scared, embarrassed, hurt, feeling like I didn't matter or belong. But I didn't have the language at the time for any of that. So it all just came out as heat and rage. And the thing about heat is that it creates more heat in return, right? If you throw heat at another person, throw anger at another person, it's a good chance they're going to get angry. Pretty much every time. Because when you don't have the tools to understand what's happening inside of you, the only move is to find something outside that could be responsible for it, right? That's just how it works. If I can't locate the actual source of this feeling, I need a cause. And my brain is really good at finding one. It will point at something or someone and say, well, obviously it's because of you. And that's why I feel this way, right? And in relationships, once the blame game starts, once both people are pointing at each other, things escalate every time. You say something, they react to your reaction, and suddenly you're 3 days into an argument that started off as a 2-minute misunderstanding. I used to call them stepping on landmines, still do, because that's what it feels like. You're just walking through your day, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you're in a conversation with another person and it just goes sideways, and then boom, you don't even know like what just happened. You're heated, you trigger the other person, and then once you eventually figure out what's going on, right, you're like, what the heck, how did we get here? Because they're patterns, right? And they get deeper. Those patterns get deeper over time, and they typically almost always trace back to something from your past, that's not even like part of the situation. So when I came across nonviolent communication by Marshall Rosenberg, it genuinely like completely changed how I understood myself. And it was really difficult. It was kind of terrible. The name itself doesn't really explain what it is. Nonviolent communication. It's actually like peaceful communication, because the way it is right now is telling you what it isn't instead of what it is. But what it actually is like conscious communication. It's a framework for noticing what's happening inside of you and being able to put language to it. It has 4 steps: observation, feeling, needs, requests. You're going to dive deeper in the guidebook about that. And the thing that cracked me open wasn't even the like outward communication piece and like having it help me in difficult conversations. It was actually being able to use it as a self-exploration tool. Before I even open my mouth to say anything to anybody, what actually is going on in here, right? I got these feelings. Whoa. Before I need to like go and point them at another person or go try to figure out, who's to blame for these like uncomfortable feelings going on inside of me, I can actually now explore them, identify them, and understand what's like underneath those things and what could actually help with that whole experience. So that's the sequence, right? What am I feeling? What's going on? What am I feeling? What needs are underneath this feeling? And what could actually help the situation? That was a big unlock for me. Now, going back to that feeling list that I mentioned, right? Because when I say expanding your vocabulary changes things, I mean it in a very practical way. When you only have 5 words for what you feel, mad, glad, sad, angry, then your nervous system can't get specific enough to help you understand like what is actually going on. Angry is a category, betrayed, humiliated, scared, powerless, resentful. Those are all very specific, and they give you information and a direction to head to exploring, like, why is that? And each of those specific feelings, they point to a specific need that isn't being met at the moment. So if you just know that you're getting angry, you can't do really anything useful for that, except for trying to blame others, trying to, escape. But if you can get specific and really identify the feeling that's going on, right? I feel dismissed. Like, I just came here and I was excited to be with this person, and then they just dismissed me and walked away. Then something like valuable. And who knows what they were going through when that happened. They might not have meant it and it just came across that way. But now I'm feeling, dismissed, that I had a need to be heard, right? To matter, to be a part of their life. And that's triggering something maybe from my past. And now I have something I can actually work with, right? Put on the Sherlock Holmes hat and be able to explore this even deeper. So when a feeling comes up, I like to have this. I had this list really handy, when in my early days, because I'd be like, okay, I'm feeling something. This is real. I could bust out this list and look through it, and like things would jump out at me, and be like, oh yeah, actually, yeah, that's there. And oftentimes you're never feeling just one feeling. So having this list and being able to go through and like put all the ones aside, write them down. I actually have these NVC cards called Grok cards, GROK, and it's a stack of 50 cards with all the feelings on there and another stack with all the needs. And you can just flip through it pretty quick. Boop, 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 boop. Yep, feeling that. Feeling that one. Oh, feeling that one too. And then spread it out and be like, whoa, I got this whole mess of like different feelings going on here that I just, came out from having this tight sensation going on in my chest. And now I can actually like dive into it and be like, oh, wonder what that one's about. Wonder what that one's about. Now, Marshall Rosenberg described all this as how to navigate your own inner life, right? Because the feelings are the scent and the needs are the flower. So you can, once you come across the scent, right? You might be like walking down the street and you catch this smell. You're like, oh, wow, cherry blossoms are popping up already here in the Northwest. And you might smell it before you even see it, right? Or becoming aware of it. They might be out there and you're just going about your day, and then you're like, oh, what's that smell? And you might not know what it is, but then you keep following it and get stronger and stronger, and then you find the source. That's what feelings are for. They're pointing at something. They're not the thing itself. They're the signal that something underneath those feelings needs attention. And that something underneath is always a need of yours. It's not being needy. It's not, a common term of like trying to be, requiring somebody else when they're not wanting it. Needs are pretty basic, right? Think of the needs for safety, connection, trust, respect, belonging, to be understood. Like these are all universal needs that we all share. They're not weaknesses because every person on the planet has them. The problem is most of us never learn to trace the scent back to the flower. We just get hit with the smell and then react, right? Oh, I smell something. Who's to blame? Who's to blame for this smell? Somebody does something, right? The feeling hits and we go straight to behavior. No inquiry, no pausing, no understanding what's actually going on. I call it search and destroy. And that loop just keeps playing over and over and over. So naming it is how we cool the fire. There's something that sounds simple, but it's really significant. If you identify it, the feeling that's going on, put words to it, it actually begins to regulate your nervous system right then and there. And there's real neuroscience behind this. When you name an emotion, you shift processing from the amygdala, the threat detection center in your brain, and it's in the like prefrontal cortex where you're like thinking. But you're not bypassing the feeling. You're not avoiding it or stuffing it down. You're attending to it. And that attendance alone starts to calm the overall system. That's why having like a 30-second pause before difficult conversations is a great idea. Being able to just sit with yourself and, as we learned with somatic coach, right? Give yourself 15 minutes. See what comes up. And that can usually help you be able to identify those feelings, understand the needs that are going underneath them. And it can make a huge difference in any conversation, from quick conversations to the 3 days of repair work needed to, fix that break up with a partner or that, best friend argument that you got into. And I've seen this play out in my life like hundreds of times, like way too many to count now. And this is where Richard Schwartz comes in. His work comes in really handy because it's kind of built in addition to NVC for me. Internal family systems, the idea is that we're not a single unified self. It's more like we're a collection of parts, and each part has its own perspective, its own history, and its own job at like what it's trying to do to help with yourself. So when big emotions hits and you get fully activated, one of those parts takes over. Could be like the protector trying to just protect you because this has happened before. And, we can't let what happened last time happen again. So when I'm so angry and I'm so furious right now, it feels like all of you is angry, right? I'm so furious. But if you can catch yourself and say, there's a part of me that's really, really angry right now, that shifts something in your perspective, because the framing keeps you in that observer position and you're watching the part, right? You're not being consumed by all of it. And the observer, as the observer, you have options. You can ask the part, what are you worried about? What are you trying to protect? What do you need right now? And usually you can always stop and listen, because the part has a pretty understandable answer if you're able to just, tune into it. What's going on? What's going on, that part of me that's really angry? The anger is almost never about what it looks like. Go over here. Now, the third piece that we're going to be diving into the guidebook is about active listening. And this is one of the most underrated communication skills out there. Most people are listening to respond while the other person is talking. They're already building their reply, right? They stop listening fully and they're getting ready for their rebuttal, to be able to share their advice, to share their own story based upon what the other person's saying. And the other person finishes, and typically they immediately fill the space in the conversation, right? Both people are just boom, 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 boom. Never actually, letting things marinate. Because active listening looks completely different than this. You're listening to understand. You're reflecting back what you hear. You're not repeating it word for word, but just giving it back your best interpretation of it. They might have talked for a minute, 5 minutes, and you're just trying to be are you talking about is it like this? And it gives them the opportunity to further clarify. It gives you the opportunity to gather more information before, what you were about to say. And it confirms is this right or correct? And the piece that took me a long time to learn is that silence in between the back and forth matters. The pauses, the empty space, because that's where real things happen, right? Gives them a moment to feel into their body, to be able to be oh, you know what? There's actually something underneath there. Or here's something that I missed. And the most important thing someone trying to say often comes up after that space. And you interrupt the quick back and forth. So sitting with discomfort in a conversation, not rushing to fill it, it's a skill, it's a muscle, and it tells the other person something very profound. I'm actually all here for this conversation. I'm not trying to manage you. I'm just listening. And it can do a lot of good in repairing, the bridge that is in between our relationships. So here's what I really want you to take from this. The inner work and the communication work, they're not separate things. They're really the same thing. Learning how to identify what you're actually feeling, building that vocabulary. It's not just about communication skills. It's how you understand yourself. It's how you stop being at the mercy of states that feel like they're happening to you and start being somebody who can locate what's going on and actually work with it. And as you get better and better at this, you can do this in real time. And it just unlocks such deeper and richer communication that goes on. And the other person doesn't need to have this skill for it to like be beneficial to the relationship. Getting specific enough to be able to like identify those feelings and needs, it helps with the clarity, helps with being honest, and it changes every relationship that you will have in your life. Even people you don't like, good, helps out tremendously. People you really care about, helps out tremendously. Casual people you're meeting on the street, it actually helps out all, like, and breaks you out of that, like, oh yeah, I'm fine, I'm good, right? This like surface level, not really honest communication that is prevalent out there. The language that you have for your inner life is only at the limit of your own self-awareness. So being able to understand these language, understanding, like go through those, feelings, words, and look them up in the dictionary. Like get some context about what that really means. Once you like have the definition, and then you're able to either attach it to an experience you already had, or something in life will happen and you'll be like, oh, that's what that is. Like that is a pretty unique situation the universe just pulled together in order for me to have that chemical reaction and like that experience. So that's how you get to like learn and embed these things so that they're available when you are walking and talking throughout the world. So this is the real important part. Like I said, integrating it. For one difficult conversation, any conversation that has heat to it, remember, pause. Do a 30-second self-check and just like check in with yourself. Be like, even if, they're coming at you hot, be like, hey, can we slow this down? Can I check in with myself? Can I ask that you check in with yourself? Understand, like, what are you actually feeling? Being specific. What needs aren't being met? What could actually help? Even if you do it in the parking lot before you walk into, somebody that you like might have an open conversation with, just pause, check in, get clear. It's going to help dramatically. And then, catch yourself from saying like, I'm angry or I'm so frustrated, right? And try and implement the parts system, right? So a part of me is really angry, and it softens the accidental perceived blame from those outside of you, right? If I come up to you and say, I'm so angry, it's really easy to be like, what did I do? What? I was just doing, right? So, but if you come up to me like, oh, part of me is really angry, it softens the delivery of that conversation. There's less chance that they're going to like immediately react thinking it's something that they did, or, it allows it to be explored. And then part 3, right, is when someone's upset, just listen, right? Don't go into fix-it mode. Don't go into advice mode. Don't jump into your own story. Just reflect back what you're hearing. See what happens. That's it. That's the work. It's not complicated. It is hard to do under fire. You can use the cheat sheets, have those things handy. Try out the AI allies this week. Describe a conversation that went sideways. Ask it to help you walk through the frameworks so that it can like really give you perspective on the situation. And if you're already inside Beyond the Matrix, the guidebooks has everything: the feelings, vocabulary, empathy frameworks, active listening tool, kits, AI allies, prompts. Go use it. If you're just finding this on YouTube, this is week 2 of 12. There's a whole body of work here, and all of it, I'm just giving it out for free because this information is incredibly needed in this whole world that we're trying to navigate. So click the link in the description, sign up, get access to everything. Full Beyond the Matrix has a community, weekly Q&A where you can bring up your real situations, get real help with them. Go from watching this content to actually integrating it, because that's where the change happens. Your words are how you get free. So start using them. Catch you next week.